Relish, pleasing or zestful flavor.
A quantity just sufficient to flavor, to be pleased or gratified by, enjoy.
We are hoping that what we bring to your table today might add some spice to your life.
Welcome back to another episode of Relish. I am your host, Rowan Miller, and this is Pastor Don Patterson. Don, how are you doing?
We're doing good. Yes, it's getting closer to spring all the time.
Yep.
So who couldn't be doing well?
Little warmer
Closer.
every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We look forward to warm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We got spoiled a little bit. We had one day that it was 70 degrees, and I thought, boy, we could use some more of those. And then, the rest of Iowa weather comes in.
You think spring and summer has already come, and then it drops back down to zero.
But think about Iowa weather, you aren't bored.
Right.
One day it's cold, and one day it's hot, and then it gets cold again, then it rains, then it snows. Usually doesn't snow when it's hot.
Usually.
Yeah. Right. But it's Iowa.
Yeah. We had, some snow, and then it was melted at 9 a.m. the next day. So.
Yep, that's true. And then I went out and pruned my apple trees.
Oh, yeah.
Got them half done. Yeah. Oh, well.
That's fun.
That's Iowa.
Yeah.
Snow in the morning, prune in the afternoon. Yeah.
Right.
Such is life.
All right.
So, how are you doing?
I've been doing well. Been busy. Basketball just ended.
Mm-hmm.
So moving into busy spring season.
Yes.
About it. With
no doubt about it.
Graduation, soccer, all that. So.
Yes, graduation. Dun, 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 dun,
Right.
dun. Okay. Looking at your life so far, where do you think God is leading you, Mr. Senior?
Well, I recently made my college decision, actually. So
this is news.
I haven't even had the time to talk with Don about it because he's been out of town. But I was pretty patient and wanted to golf, and so kind of working through that, and several schools were offered or were interested or whatever, and kind of got it narrowed down, and then was pretty patient. I think the Lord opened some doors, so I'm actually thinking I'm going to go to Northwestern in Orange City and golf there, which is rival school of where my brother goes. So
I was going to say,
we
it's going to be a
some heads
conversation at home,
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
no competition among the Miller boys. No,
right.
Not at all. That's cool. That's cool.
I look forward to it. Have some friends up there. So.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'll make some.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And had a good time at Hillcrest. That was good to have all those questions. And look, maybe to have some surprise guest on the broadcast here.
Special guest coming up.
Lord willing.
A couple episodes from now, hopefully. But stay tuned for that.
Mm-hmm.
So we, as Don already mentioned, our last episode was at Hillcrest, and all the students there submitted questions that they had for Pastor Don. And so now we are going to work through the other.
And you assured me there were so many that we wouldn't have a problem.
Oh, yeah. No,
okay.
Don was keeping his answers short in that last episode. And so even getting through it, like probably the most questions we might have ever covered
we did. Yeah. And I feel bad in case somebody wanted a deeper discussion on some of those questions. That'd be good sometime, maybe to go into those a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
But, everybody was sitting right there, waiting. Is he going to answer my question? So we
probably got about 3% of the student body's questions answered, but
oh, wow.
Something like that.
Wow.
5%, I don't know.
Quite a few questions then.
Right.
Okay, good. That's good.
Yeah. So we'll start it off here with, did Judas have free will when he betrayed Jesus?
I think we need to consider that, yes, he did have free will. I think he did bend to the temptation to do what there's two schools of thought. One school of thought would say he bent to the temptation of trying to force Jesus to be the king he was expecting Jesus to be. And so by betraying him, that he would force him to open up his hand as King of Kings and Lord of Lords and
Okay.
banish the Romans and all that good stuff.
So less of a temptation of money and more of being king he was expecting. Okay.
And the other is just, the sheer, I mean, a lot of times in a popular organization, there's somebody who's always just a little jealous of what's going on, and so they betray the guy on top, and I think some of that was at play with Judas, and I guess he was known. We see in I believe it's chapter 12 of John, where Mary anoints Jesus in those first verses of chapter 12, and he was known to the disciples of being a crook, even though he was given, I guess by Jesus, the role of keeping the money.
Huh.
So, and you always say, well, then why would Jesus have Judas keep the money if he knew he was going to steal it?
Right.
And I think that says something about Jesus, that even knowing Judas's heart, Jesus put him in a situation where he could choose beyond the temptation. So yes, I still go back to the very first part of that question. Did he have free will? And I say, yeah. I believe he had free will, and he could have done something different and chose not to. And I know a lot of people who deal with temptation, we sort of move towards the easy way because we're already in that groove already. And I think really the mission of Jesus Christ was to give us an option out of the normal route of temptation to follow him.
Interesting.
So when we talk about discipleship and those kinds of things, it's in our discipleship that we choose the way of Jesus in light of our normal human reactions to the world around us, so that we do good to those who persecute you. You go ahead and turn the other cheek to the guy who whacks you up the one side. Those are choices then we make in our discipleship. And the easy path and the narrow way, those are all in chapter 7 of Matthew. Those are choices to be disciples and to work in discipleship ways. So yes, I think Judas had free will. In addition to that, guess what? So do we. We can either do what's easy that comes to the flesh, or we can do the hard thing that is the kingdom thing that we would recognize Jesus doing.
Yeah.
We have those choices, just like Judas did. So I would go, yes, Judas had free choice. Yes, he followed that human nature. I think that's what basically it follows up. Then, he takes his own life because he messed up.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, if you're in one of those situations where you say there's no other way out, don't take that one. Jesus is the answer. And you know what? Sometimes we just need to surrender to his will and find help. Get out of that groove, that natural human groove that takes us to destruction. And Jesus is the way out of that groove.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why was Judas needed in the betrayal of Jesus?
Well, we wouldn't have the cross without that betrayal. Somebody had to do it. And we what's interesting is he was even prophesied.
Yeah.
And so that being the case, it had to happen.
Right.
It was according to Scripture, it had to happen. And Jesus knew. I think Jesus knew from the onset. I mean, think about it. If you're putting a crew together to follow you,
yep,
you're going to sort of sift through all of them, right? And vet them, if you will.
Right.
And you would look that Jesus couldn't have helped, knowing everything else that he knew, that Judas was that kind of character. There's just no way he didn't know. So to imagine Jesus intentionally putting Judas into the 12 is almost mind-blowing, because that's not what we would do. We get 12 guys who think like us, who, if we're at least smart enough, They wouldn't all be yes men, but they could also give us a bigger scope of what is going into every situation. Jesus then would have been very much aware that Judas was not only not a yes man, but was contrary to what the kingdom was wanting to do through Jesus Christ on the cross. And the cross wouldn't have happened without Judas.
Yeah.
At all.
Right.
So it could be that Jesus just saw that in the future as being a way to make the cross come about so that we would have the freedom we are given through the cross. Yeah. Yeah, Jesus knew.
Yeah. In Numbers, I have it as 15:32. A man is picking up sticks on the Sabbath and gets stoned because God commanded them to stone him. Did God essentially command murder then?
Is he
just different?
Is he okay? So what we're talking about is the beginning of a time when God is calling out a people, and he is trying to train this people not to sin. And obviously this guy didn't take it very seriously. Oh, okay. A man was found gathering wood on the Sabbath day. Those who found him gathering wood brought him to Moses and Aaron and the whole assembly, and they kept him in custody because it was not clear what they should be done to him. Then the Lord said to Moses, "The man must die. The whole assembly must stone him outside the camp." So the whole assembly took him outside the camp and stoned him to death, as the Lord commanded Moses. This isn't the first time this has happened.
Okay.
Yeah, this would be the first time it happened. It will happen again at Ai, when the guy picked up things that he wasn't supposed to pick up, took them home, stuck them in his own tent.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's several instances that God says, okay, this person sinned and they must pay the ultimate price for that sin. The flip side of this is, and it wasn't murder, everybody who was part of the assembly would be part of the stoning.
Yeah.
Because the whole assembly took him outside the camp. The whole assembly must stone him outside the camp. And so basically what God is establishing here is, I ain't kidding clause. I ain't kidding. Yeah, I said, don't work on the Sabbath. I ain't kidding. So, and we have a hard time thinking of it in these kinds of terms.
Yeah.
But if we're looking at the text, we're realizing that God is trying to form a people. And it seems like, from my reading of the text, by forming that people and doing things like this at the very beginning, they get the sense, oh, I think God's really serious on this one. And it sounds, man, picking up sticks, that sounds like somebody doing gardening.
I feel like I might have done that on.
Yeah, well, yeah. So then, if that's the case, aren't you glad we don't do stonings on Sundays? It's basically saying, as I look at this passage, and then later what happens at Ai and a couple other places like that, God's serious. God's serious about saying, I want you to be my people. I want you to honor those 10 commandments and live them out in daily life. It's not just what you want to have done, it's reflecting God's will to be done. And I think maybe that's something we aren't living into quite enough today. This is a situation where they knew good and well that God did not want work to be done on the Sabbath.
Right.
And the Pharisees would take that to extremes by the time of Jesus. That being the case, how do you get it across that this group of people are going to reflect God's values? Unless there's consequences to when you don't live out those values.
Right.
So I think God's trying to get it through that, hey, folks, This was not a suggestion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This has implications. I want you to live this way.
Right.
And so now here at the beginning, we're going to make sure that happens.
Yeah. This wasn't part of the original question, but how does that idea of stoning change when we shift to the New Testament? Like, take the woman, is it
John 8,
yeah,
caught in adultery, right?
yeah, and
Stephen,
yeah,
Acts chapter
also,
7.
yeah. How does that concept shift, or does it not change at all? Or
It really doesn't change, because that is the same. And in John 8, that's the same consequent for adultery. The hiccup in John 8 is the fact, wait a minute. Adultery usually involves two people, right?
Right.
Where's the guy? I mean, the guy's not there in John 8. And, maybe that was what Jesus was scrolling in the sound. I mean, when he was writing. And
Could be.
But the idea of stoning is interesting, because not one single stone would do the killing.
Yeah.
It would be a culmination of those stones that would actually kill. And it's through the bruising, through the bleeding, the head wounds, those kind of things. But everybody is participating in the throwing. And I think that's why Jesus pulls back at the end of that passage in John 8, and those first 12 verses, and says, "He who is without sin cast the first stone." Because in this passage in Romans, Numbers 15, God is charging that the whole assembly, not just part of it, the whole assembly, and this is God's words, the man must die, the whole assembly must stone him outside the camp, not inside the camp. And so the assembly took him outside the camp and stoned him to death, as the Lord commanded. Yeah. So, in other words, it's not one person like in some other penal systems. It would be a hangman or an executioner would take the brunt of taking that person's life. This person's lifeblood is on everybody's hands.
Yeah.
And so that flips it and says, this corporal punishment thing that we're doing is all of our responsibility. It's not just one. So it changes things. And then when you go to Stephen's stoning, we realize it's the religious group, Pharisees, Sadducees, Sanhedrin, that did the stoning. The reason that sets a little different in Roman times is the fact that they could not do capital punishment the way the Romans did, like a crucifixion or something like that.
Yeah.
And so the stoning of the New Testament is sort of a crowd. It was a method of execution used by the religious group. Since they could not get a political execution, they would do a crowd mob kind of thing. And that's what happens with Stephen's case. And that's basically what was prepared for in John 8. So it was a crowd way of getting an execution. They wouldn't say, "Oh, that guy murdered because he threw a stone." Well, they all did.
Yeah.
And so they could get around it. It was sort of a way of getting around the fact that executions could only be done by Rome. But the Jews just put a crowd together and started throwing stones.
Right.
Interesting way of getting things done.
Yeah. Well, historic information there too.
Well, I'm sorry. I was full of it. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Good way to close the episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds all right.
Thank you guys for joining us. Hope you enjoyed these student-inspired questions, and
yes,
stay tuned.
Good questions.
To see the rest of them get answered. We'll see you next time.
Lord willing.
Thank you for joining us for this podcast. Feel free to become part of this ministry by sharing it with others. Our goal is to help each other grow deeper in our understanding of who God is and His calling to us in our daily lives. Thank you again for joining us, and may God bless your day.